Originally developed by Square as a side story to their immensely popular Final Fantasy franchise, the Mana series quickly evolved into a unique entity of its own. A complement to Final Fantasy's traditional turn-based combat, the Mana series carved its niche by focusing on real-time action, blending innovative mechanics with classic RPG conventions. While it has never reached the heights of Final Fantasy's popularity, the Mana series remains a beloved cornerstone of JRPG history, celebrated for its imaginative gameplay and vibrant storytelling. Final Fantasy Adventure: The Humble Beginning. The origins of the Mana series trace back to the 1980s when Square conceived an ambitious project titled The Emergence of Excalibur. Initially planned as a massive game spanning 5 floppy disks for the Famicom Disk System, the project was ultimately deemed unfeasible. Square redirected its efforts toward a smaller project, which became Final Fantasy. Building on Final Fantasy's success, Square entrusted game designer Koichi Ishii to develop a spin-off for the Game Boy. Initially titled Geminites, this game was released as Final Fantasy Adventure, Seiken Densetsu, Final Fantasy Gaiden in Japan, and Mystic Quest in Europe. The game's real-time action combat and expansive world introduced players to the tale of 2 heroes striving to protect the Mana Tree from the Dark Lord. Despite its modest scope, Final Fantasy Adventure was a success and laid the groundwork for the series' future. Secret of Mana, a crown jewel. Breaking away from its Final Fantasy roots, the sequel, Seiken Densetsu 2, or Secret of Mana, ushered the franchise into a new era. Originally planned as a launch title for Nintendo's SNES CD peripheral, its development pivoted to a standard SNES cartridge after the hardware's cancellation. Despite this, Secret of Mana achieved legendary status. The story begins when a young boy accidentally unleashes chaos by removing a mystical sword from its resting place. This sets the stage for an epic journey filled with action-packed combat, cooperative multiplayer gameplay, a robust magic system, and stunning visuals. Coupled with an unforgettable soundtrack, featuring tracks like Angel's Fear and Meridian Dance, Secret of Mana remains a high point of the series and a timeless RPG classic. Seiken Densetsu 3. Pushing Boundaries. Seiken Densetsu 3, later localized as Trials of Mana, built on Secret of Mana's foundation, offering a more expansive experience. Released exclusively in Japan for the Super Famicom in 1995, the game introduced 6 playable characters, 3 intertwining narratives, and a day-night cycle that influenced gameplay. Its innovative class system added depth and replayability. Despite its critical acclaim, the game's localization was hindered by the limited storage capacity of SNES cartridges. Western audiences had to wait decades for an official release, but its legacy endured as a pinnacle of 16-bit role-playing. Legend of Mana, an ambitious experiment. With the arrival of Sony's PlayStation, the Mana series embraced new possibilities. Legend of Mana retained its predecessor's 2D aesthetics while introducing the land-make system, allowing players to shape the game's world by placing artifacts on a map. While visually stunning and musically rich, its nonlinear structure and cryptic mechanics divided players and critics. Though not without flaws, Legend of Mana is revered for its artistry and innovation. Struggles in the 2000s. Square Enix's polymorphic content strategy in the early 2000s led to a slew of Mana titles across various platforms, with mixed results. Sword of Mana, 2003, a Game Boy Advance remake of Final Fantasy Adventure, praised for its visuals and gameplay but criticized for its thin story. Children of Mana, 2006, a dungeon-crawling spin-off for the Nintendo DS that, despite charming graphics and mechanics, suffered from repetitive gameplay. Dawn of Mana, 2006, the first fully 3D entry on the PlayStation 2, notable for its panic system but marred by clunky mechanics and design flaws. Heroes of Mana, 2007, a real-time strategy title for the DS that struggled with poor pathfinding and unwieldy controls. These titles, while ambitious, failed to capture the magic of earlier entries and cast uncertainty over the franchise's future. A revival through remakes. The 2010s marked a resurgence for the Mana series, beginning with Collection of Mana, 2019, which compiled the first 3 games. Western fans finally experienced Seiken Densetsu 3, now titled Trials of Mana, in an official capacity. The success of this collection paved the way for remakes. A 2017 Secret of Mana remake was criticized for technical issues, but the 2020 Trials of Mana remake garnered praise for its updated graphics, refined gameplay, and faithfulness to the original. Visions of Mana, a bold new era. The series' latest entry, Visions of Mana 2024, represents its most ambitious effort yet. Featuring open-world exploration and stunning 3D visuals, the game builds on the success of the Trials of Mana remake. Despite receiving critical acclaim, its development studio, Oka Studios, was shuttered by parent company NetEase on the day of its release, casting a shadow over the game's triumph. The road ahead. The Mana series has faced its share of highs and lows, but its resilience is a testament to the passion of its creators and fans. With recent successes rekindling interest, the future remains uncertain but hopeful. The Mana series has always championed themes of perseverance and hope, and with continued fan support, it may yet see new adventures. Whether revisiting classics or embracing new innovations, the Mana series remains a shining example of imagination in gaming, offering players worlds filled with magic, adventure, and heart.